I got all I want, and I got all I need, and I got everything. I got you and me. All I want, I got all I need.
Marriage is the best. I got to talk to a couple recently who is about to have their fourth child this month. And when I asked them about like how they were feeling about number 4 and, you know, all the transitions that'll come as a result of it and how the pregnancy had been and all of those, you know, intriguing questions about their process and their experience of this season of their lives, they said immediately that, you know, being pregnant and looking forward to adding to their family is easy because they are on the same team. Granted, I don't know these, you know, like I do know them, but we don't know them well enough to like for them to know about the podcast or any of the phases conversations that we've had on here or any of that. And so when they said that, it just made me smile because I had, you know, we just kind of wrapped up our phases conversations. If you're new to the podcast, we want to just welcome you and hope that you get something out of your search for marriage material and different marriage topics and stories. And if you're an old timer, we appreciate you sticking with us and listening to our ideas and just kind of moving through this process with us. It's been an interesting process. I didn't know exactly where we were going to go in this process or what would even be available to us. And due to the winds of change and the different seasons that Bex and I have been in, I've done a lot of solo flying this last year. And solo flying isn't bad, but it is it's very different to just talk to yourself in your child's playroom on a pull-out IKEA bed with your podcast stuff, looking at, you know, a Paw Patrol tower and a dollhouse and a stray lamp. It's a little different to just kind of talk to yourself and explore ideas and think through marriage and think through marriage counseling and think through the different phases that we talked about. But it's just been a very different process. And I didn't know that this was what it was going to entail to kind of start on this journey. I enjoyed talking through sustainability. I think that that's probably number one in my list of passions and desires for future generations of marriage. The phases conversation came into play because of my work in the counseling field and just seeing different marriages and different seasons and trying to kind of understand them and kind of categorize or kind of create a way to systemically look at, you know, where is this couple at and how might you treat them differently when they're just starting in their journey and finding some trouble, or they are coming into the renegotiation phase kind of later on down later on in their lives, because it obviously needs to look different. You know, those kinds of conversations early on, whether it be in the honeymoon or teamwork phase or disillusionment phase, you know, look a little bit different than in the teamwork and the renegotiation. Ultimately, sustainability is the name of the game when it comes to addressing your marriage and making it something that lasts. Creating systems that will sustain your marriage is the best thing that you can do for it. And that really just comes down to spending time together, maintaining friendship, investing in dates, investing in time away, being really appreciative and affectionate toward one another on a regular basis. It was funny. I was actually flipping through, I think I was actually looking for some marriage material, and I found a short on YouTube And the language that this gentleman used, I really liked and kind of want to adapt it into the sustainable systems model, which is we have on there like 8 affectionate touches. And I got that from somewhere. I really do apologize because I don't remember exactly where. But instead of 8 affectionate touches, it's instead the idea of always be touching. So he just used that phrase, just always be touching. And I think that that's a little bit better when it comes to your attitude, right? Appreciation. Whenever you see something, say something. That's a great attitude, and it does impact the culture of the relationship. And when I do it, I feel like I'm building us up. The idea of 8 affectionate touches feels more like a checklist rather than a cultural item. And so I like the idea of always be touching instead, because it's not a checklist. Instead, it's a intimacy growing kind of cultural totem, factor, system, something to work on. So yeah, I think I'm going to update that next time I do my updates in the worksheets and different things that I give out to clients. Today I have a list of different things that I think would be really cool to explore next after our phases. And so I'm going to kind of ramble on about those things. You're getting me kind of late at night on Sunday, and it's been actually a really hard, kind of long week. So you're getting the tired dad mode version of the podcast today. So I hope that you don't mind. But basically, I just want to talk through some of the things that I've been thinking about that would be really cool to see the podcast kind of like learn and grow in this new direction after just kind of completing the phases. I feel like we're kind of done with those for now. So the number one thing that I think we'll start out with is we had a listener that inspired a giveaway. We did that, I think, late last year when we were kind of trying to get the 5-star reviews on Apple, and a listener had donated basically $100 to give for a date night. What I was thinking about was how cool would it be if Marriage is the Best could develop into something that first and foremost makes an income. Okay, so financially, that there would be some like sort of inflow of finances, and that with those finances, a scholarship could be created for kind of basically a weekly or biweekly or monthly giveaway that would inspire people to get away for a weekend away with their spouse. And I was thinking about, like, what if we could raise or earn at least, $500 a month to give away for these trips. So you and your spouse, you get away for a night, you have the night paid for, you have the meals paid for, you have some entertainment paid for. Maybe you can stretch it if you're frugal to a couple of nights, or maybe you just kind of use it to kind of inspire you to go and do it. Because I do think it would make it easier for couples to kind of make the sacrifices involved in leaving their homes and leaving their households and leaving their children and leaving their responsibilities to invest in each other. If there was, a carrot, a little incentive. And once you kind of see the benefit in it, once you have experienced a night away or a couple of nights away, I don't think you're ever really going to want to stop, because it's so refreshing. You come back better for yourself. You come back better for your partner. If you have kids, you come back better for them as well, but really just better for your responsibilities. And doing it really does help in the sustainability question of, is our marriage going to last a long time when we have these like big investments of a night away or night or two away? It really does make a big difference. So if we could come to a place where the podcast was making beyond $500 a month, right? Like we could donate or give away $500 every month or on some sort of reoccurring basis to just inspire people to get away. And I was thinking that because we encourage people to do it on an annual basis, that you could win it once a year. That would be crazy. So the same people win it every year. But I just think that would be really fun, and I would like to impact parts of culture, I guess, with the podcast. And it's so small right now. It's very amateur. There's no soundproofing on these walls, and there probably needs to be. And there probably needs to be a designated space for the equipment, and that it could be kind of like mastered differently and, polished up and cleaned up so that it would be more appealing to a more broad audience. So I'd like to invest in that, invest back in the podcast, but then I'd also like to really invest in the culture of marriage. So I think one really cool way to do that is to, inspire people to make their marriages sustainable and to pour into their marriages in kind of a radical way. And I don't know, a $500 gift to go on a weekend away when you're struggling or suffering or having a hard go of it, or don't know where your marriage is at. I think that would be a cool cultural thing. Like, come here, like, listen to the pod, be inspired, and then go pour into your marriage and make it something great. Make it something that your kids want to look at and aspire to, and something that will bless you into your later years, because there's a lot of suffering, I think, in the later years when marriages fail and break, and endless amounts of suffering all over the place. But so that's my $500 scholarship idea. And it's in its infancy, so don't expect it to come around anytime soon. I mean, we don't even have ads on the podcast, so it's not like there's any even trickle of income coming in. But it's something that we really, if and when that would happen, I am looking forward to being able to give it out, like give it away, give it to you guys, and encourage you to continue to make your marriage a priority and make it the best. The next thing I was thinking about so I want to do, like, not necessarily a psychological study, like a sociological study, but I want to do maybe a series of interviews about generational marriages, because I have a theory brewing in the back of my head that each generation had and has different, because of the culture that each of them existed in, they have different features in their marriages. And I think some of the features of the current culture of marriage is due to the one previous, and then our culture of marriage is going to impact the next generation. So, I don't actually even know the generations, what they're called, but basically, like, the boomers impacted the next generation, maybe X, and then X has affected the millennials, and then the millennials are going to affect the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha people. So anyways, like, each generation of marriages has some certain features that they got, honestly, from their parents. And I would like to talk to people in their 60s and 70s that have a good marriage and that saw what their parents' marriages were like. And I would like to come to an understanding of what their parents' marriages were like, to understand how that then informed their own marriages, these people, hypothetical people in their 60s and 70s, and then what they are now seeing from their perspective on the next generation of marriages. And then what their, just like what their thoughts are and what their perspective is on where marriage is going and what made them successful. So if we could pull out some features of different generational marriage, if we could pull out features of the marriage culture in each of these generations, I think that we could learn a lot from doing so. And I think that we could inform people, a good amount about, like, where their marriage is coming from from a really big sociological lens. And I think the more that we understand about these things and the more that we can kind of lean into them, I think the more that we are equipped to make better choices. And then ultimately, I'd like those generational marriage conversations and interviews to inspire, like, how do we set up the next generation, Gen Z, to have the best marriages in history? How do we set them up with the tools and the knowledge and the understanding and the priorities and the values to have literally the best marriages in history? The really interesting thing about this idea of Gen Z, you are going to be the ones equipped to have the best marriages ever, is that there is so much marriage information and teaching and, you know, books and we just understand it on a different level now than we have ever in the past. And so I do really believe that with the proper training and the proper cultural forces in place, we could inspire a culture of marriage that is incredibly responsible and committed and healthy, and then inspires the next generation in a positive direction rather than in a direction away from childbearing and away from responsibility and away from hard work and away from the commitments. But first, they would have to know that marriage is the best. Like, they would have to really understand what makes marriage so great. They would have to understand how to find a good marriage and then how to sustain it, how to build it up and sustain it. And so there's a lot of work to be done, I think, in the area of helping Gen Z to be equipped to have the best marriages in the history of marriage. And I do believe it's possible. I think that that's very possible. The ironic thing is that I just watched a video the other day about the difference in, or like the big gaps in the values of the different genders, right? So like men and women in the next generation are on so many different levels, on so many different topics, and are not really close to one another when it comes to the core values that they need to be in order to relate to one another. You know, so for example, I think men are becoming more religious and women are becoming less, and women are going to university and men are not, and women are growing in their earning potential beyond what men are, which can cause problems. And there was some really interesting data on marriages that the woman makes more than the man, which is fascinating. I'm not versed in it enough to share the data with you, but I will look up the video that I watched and I'll put it in the show notes so that you can find it and look at it as well, just to understand like what they were saying and where the data was coming from. But it was interesting because as they were going through this video and showing the gender gap in all of these different areas, what I was thinking was these people are not equipped to find the right person, to choose the right person. They're not equipped to know what is going to be. That basically they're not equipped to fall in love with people of the opposite gender in their current generation, because so many of the core values that are important, that kind of set the marriage foundation up for success long term, there's a growing divide between the male and the female sides of the generation. And I think we need some forces culturally and some conversations culturally to drive them back together in some way, or to just teach the really good ones how to do it really, really well, do the marriage thing really, really well. So, we're not going to compete with X and Instagram and YouTube and all of the things that are driving these divides and these different value systems. We're not going to compete with those things, but if we could get not a popular, well, maybe a popular, like if we could get some voices out there that would really encourage this next generation in a positive way to move toward marriage in a positive way, to set themselves up for really great marriages, knowing that the value of all the work that they put in to making a great marriage is one of the most phenomenal returns on investment they will ever see, whether it be a financial or health wise or relationship wise or meaning wise or purpose wise. Having a phenomenal marriage is one of the best things that you can have in this lifetime. And I do believe that it is the best relationship that we have access to here on earth. And so we should be equipping the next generation to see that and to kind of capitalize on all of the work that's been done in the 3 or 4 previous generations to set marriage up for success. Now, ultimately, marriage is a lot of work, and there's no way to force people to do the work, but we can educate them, and we can make it fun, and we can show them how awful. Oh boy, Freudian slip there. We can show them how awesome marriage really is. And then ultimately, I think that both people in my generation and the people and the generation after need a place to develop friendships with members of the opposite sex. A safe place where they can spend a lot of time and have fun or enjoyment so that they can build friendships. So a safe place that they can spend a lot of time, that they can enjoy and have fun and make a lot of friendships. Now, college, used to kind of serve that purpose. And for so many of us, that is what happened at college, right? Like, it was the place that we could be safe most of the time, and we could spend a bunch of time having fun and enjoying people and enjoying things, so that friendships could blossom. And I have 4 incredible friends from college that I love very dearly. And then I have my best friend, my wife, that I met in college and was safe with and developed a lot of time, had a lot of time with and had a lot of fun with and really enjoyed, which created the foundation for our marriage. So the idea is, I don't know if we're giving this next generation an opportunity to spend safe time together, safe, focused time on a regular basis that is enjoyable, that builds that sense of friendship. And all of the best marriages, all great marriages, are really, really phenomenal friendships that have some of these other roles and responsibilities and things mixed in. But on its face, a marriage that lasts a really long time is on its foundation, or in the foundation is also a really phenomenal friendship. So how do we create a place for them to go to build those friendships up, to set their foundation up right, to learn what marriage is and how it's so wonderful and it is the best, to then kind of launch them into creating their own marriages and inspiring then their children to create great marriages as well. So there's some needs out there, right? Like, one of my skills or one of my strengths that I found out when I took Strength Finders through a process, through a guy that I know from our church, was a really interesting process. And I was kind of shocked by the results because I didn't really know that these 5 strengths were my 5 strengths. But one of them that came out of that process was ideation, which is basically just like ideas, like looking at ideas. Analysis was another one, and learning. There was like a learning one. I don't remember the name of it. But anyways, a lot of them had to do with data and information. And so analysis or analyzing things and ideation come really easy to me, and I really enjoy doing them. What I don't enjoy doing is executing on things. So in order for any of those things to happen, and in order for any of this to take off or to make money or to do anything, I think I'm actually going to need some help. So if you're interested in helping or having conversations about this, or if you're excited about like the prospect or possibility of something like this going on, you should definitely reach out. We have an email at marriageisthebest@yahoo.com. We've had a few different emails recently. We had one guy who wanted to come on the podcast, and we went back and forth 3 or 4 different times, and basically just couldn't get a scheduled time together. Probably because I am so busy with running a household and raising 6 children and trying to keep my marriage as sustainable as possible, which is going pretty good. Even though there's ups and downs and conflict, we had a good amount of conflict even this weekend. So if you had a lot of conflict this weekend, you're in good company. Oh, gee. It's fun. It's fun to dream. It's fun to ideate. It's fun to think and kind of forecast out where things could go. And I really do hope that one of these kind of ideas can come into fruition. And I know that, the idea that is most, I don't know, I think one of them will catch, whether it be catch in me or catch in you or catch in our culture, or somebody else takes the idea and like runs with it and makes something really beautiful out of it. There's some things that need to be done and need to be worked on. And I think that with the right people and with, God's blessing on things, that we could really do transformative work on a cultural level and inspire people to pour into these beautiful relationships that are so hard and so difficult and take so much from us, but also have the best upside and return on investment out of anything. So I'm going to stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Feel free to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Hit the Spotify 5-star thing. That would be super helpful. If you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out. If you're, if you want to spend some time clipping up our shows on the YouTube and creating shorts for us, just let me know. Reach out. That'd be great. Looking for somebody to do that. But ultimately, we hope that your marriage is awesome. And this is the end.
And I got all I need, and I got everything.